Greetings. This is General CRG here, and today, well, we're digging the most bottom of the bottom barrel in the expanded universe timeline. Yes, title's not lying. We're talking about the Star Wars Holiday Special from 1978. Not the Lego Star Wars one. No, the original one from 1978. And yeah, this one's a doozy. So, yeah, joining me here, I got.
The always dependable and one with the largest collection, Captain Henson.
Mhm.
And this is the Spotter Fit Maniac. Back again.
And
Jedi Knight Luke, and we're about to discuss the worst doozy imaginable.
yep. So, without further ado, let's begin with a summary of the of this special story. Who wants to do a summary on this one? Oh boy. Oh my. Do you want to do it, Doan or Henson or
Well,
Luke?
I mean, to put it simply, Han and Chewie, or Han's trying to bring Chewie to Kashyyyk so he can celebrate Life Day with his family. Then we spend a hot minute with these Wookiees doing mundane shit. And then eventually, Han does bring Chewie home, and then they celebrate Life Day. A drunk Leia sings, and then bada bing, bada boom.
Yep. That is pretty much the most basic summary we can think of because plenty of crazy shit happens in this one. So yeah, and that image there, yep, it is pretty much that. Some of it is from the original trilogy, but yeah, the other portion doesn't lie. It is exactly that. So yeah, so I guess the first thing we should talk about is how they reused several clips from A New Hope, like in the beginning and portions of it in the special. So I guess they didn't have money to film new scenes of the Falcon flying and attacking the TIE
Well,
fighters.
they obviously did not.
Yeah. So, can I just say it is surprising that they got the entire cast? Like, all of it? like,
Not
holy hell.
really. Darth Vader was archive footage, so no.
Oh, I know.
Of a deleted scene.
Yeah, David Prowse. Yeah. No, I was talking about Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, surprisingly, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew. Like, they got them all. That's crazy. Like,
Yeah, it's like the mere existence of this thing fascinates me because, like, this was one of the earliest Star Wars productions. And they had the entire original cast, save for David Prowse, but they could have gotten him if they wanted to film new footage. They had access to the entire original cast. And yet, instead of giving us like a proper story, they give us your typical 1970s variety show, which isn't the worst idea. I haven't seen a lot of variety shows, but I did watch The Muppet Show. So I know the format can be fun, but then the problem is a lot of what we get here isn't entertaining. Like, we do have some cool stuff, like we have the Faithful Wookiee animated segment, but in terms of the variety we get here, we get, this acrobatic dance routine on
the holo table.
Table. We have Harvey Korman going through how to build this machine. It's like, really, like, this is the best. Oh, and of course, Harvey Korman in blackface.
And the orc singing Cantina for some reason.
Yeah, Harvey Korman played like 3 different characters in this special.
It's like, but that Tatooine segment really does show like we could have done like an interesting anthology here. Like we could have just like I don't know, done stories about like different background characters, like the Tales books. But
A
again, like the thought process behind this thing is just so bizarre. Or the fact that this is the first on-screen appearance of Kashyyyk, which is mind-boggling.
No, it is the first appearance. Period.
yeah. In general, like this
And
is
the
the first
fact that this did serve as the basis for how we see it
And
in episode 3.
there's also another interesting thing. It's like the Wookiees were designed by Stan Winston.
Stan Winston. Did he also make Chewbacca's costume?
I don't know, but I'm at least sure for his family, I guess.
Yeah, Stan Winston, one of the gods of special effects.
Oh yeah, he worked on Terminator, Jurassic Park, Aliens, Predator.
Yeah.
Or hell, I'll even say like giving Chewie a family, I think, is interesting, but then the problem is, okay, having them not speak English or I guess basic isn't necessarily a problem. You can tell emotions by, body language and how they growl and shit. But then the problem is we have to hear that over and over and over again. And as cool as the Wookiee speech pattern is, it is not something you want to listen to a lot.
And not to mention, we don't even understand what they're saying.
I mean,
Not to mention, there's like very little variety. They all sound basically the same.
yeah, there's even some fan-made subtitles when was it Lumpy? Yeah, was like flying around the ship. It's like Itchy is like sitting there, hey kid, shut the hell up, I'm trying to rest. There are fan-made subtitles to make it look like the most ridiculous thing. And this is like the opposite problem with Transformer movies or Godzilla versus King Kong. I'm not really. So sure, remove the human characters and try to have a focus towards the robot / creatures. But then here's the issue. At least with like Transformers, you get to have them speak English, or at least in a language which is comprehensible for the audience. In this case, you don't understand what the hell they're saying. You hear annoying growls and roars and like, what are we supposed to do? Is this some kind of a comedy? Are we supposed to laugh at this?
I guess that was the point. Which, yeah, it's weird. It is weird, yeah. So, gotta ask you guys, what was your first time actually watching this special? Like the very first time?
So, well, my first exposure to it, I believe, was the Nostalgia Critic review.
Same.
That's what, first exposure. But then first time watching it was sometime after. And this was years ago, and I haven't seen it since. So I should change that. But I honestly didn't feel like rewatching it for this video. And yeah, it was boring with like some cool moments, but then it's like out of all the things you could have done for a made-for-TV Star Wars production, I know this had a low budget, but then it's like you couldn't do something else. So I was just left more confused than anything.
Yeah. What about you, though, one?
I was introduced to this thing by Hello Greedo, of all people.
Hello, Grado. Okay.
So I was like, whoa, there's a holiday special with all the cast there. Sure, maybe. But I wasn't really that interested enough. So I just watched the show with the Faithful Wookiee. Yeah, that will be explained later. But yeah, I just watched the cartoon. And like, when was it? At some point between 2018 and 2024. That's a long period. But I think it was around 2019 or 2020 to be exact when I first saw the show from start to end.
Mm. Okay. And look.
Um, I remember seeing one or two scenes from this in other YouTube videos that I watched, or that I've seen before, but my first time watching this was yesterday and a little bit of today, and my gut reaction is, what the fuck have I just seen?
Yeah. And as for me, yeah, Nostalgia Critic was the first one that introduced me to it, and then I saw the videos. But the first time I actually watched it was with a friend who he actually back then he thought the Phantom Menace was the worst thing ever in Star Wars. He was like, "There's nothing worse. There can't be any worse." And then showing the holiday special, he's like halfway into it, it's like still not the worst. Then like 3/4 into it, it's like, okay, yeah, this is worse than the Phantom Menace. it's like it was like he changed his opinion when watching it, but yeah, that was how I watched it the first time. With somebody else, and he he owed the Phantom Menace an apology after that. That's all I can say about that one. And second time I rewatched it was, well, yeah, literally yesterday. So, yep, it is definitely one boring yet fascinatingly weird thing to watch. It's so crazy. So, yeah, that's definitely my first experience. And yeah, this some of the crazy shit in this special, like, okay, I don't know. What do you guys think is like the craziest thing this special does? Like the
Okay,
one thing that makes
I'm
it like
gonna have to
fuck.
say it. Grandpa Wookie watching VR porn.
All things
Yeah.
considered, I thought that was the most grounded and relatable aspect of this whole thing.
What I knew one of you was gonna say the freaking Grandpa Wookie masturbating to the woman.
We are excited tonight.
Look, what is that thing? And like, what is up with the nonsensical cross-dresser going like stir whip? Like, what is that?
Uh, you want to know what the worst part is about those two things, though? One,
What?
both of them are canon to the expanded universe,
Oh
and
no,
I'm
I
not talking.
already knew that.
Yeah, and I don't just mean the holiday special. I mean other sources have referenced them. So apparently, it is canon that people actually masturbate to that digital woman. So it ain't just the
I
freaking
mean,
grandpa
are
one.
we honestly surprised there is VR porn in the Star Wars universe?
I mean, I'm not surprised, but I don't want to
Be reminded of it.
have it be in reality.
Virtual reality. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I can give the holiday special this much, I
And that's
guess
a
because of the time it was made, it being made at the right time where you could do something like this.
And
And
that's
like,
what I say when some people say, well, it's better than The Lost Jedi is better. At least we say, well, this stuff could be canon or not canon. So yeah.
Well, at least there is
you
that.
know, I it's like this special so often pauses so we can get another segment. And so the plot itself moves at a very snail's pace.
Yeah.
And like, if you wanted to do a Star Wars variety show, I think you could have done it. but you either have to change the plot or just have no fucking plot and just have shit happen.
I mean,
It doesn't help that the production value is as cheap as it is, so it's not exactly interesting to look at. With a few exceptions, a lot of it is just one, we're stuck in this fucking house like the entire fucking time. But it's like, oh, here's a Wookiee watching TV and cooking. You're just gonna watch that for several minutes.
Mark Hamill appears in like between segments, and like I don't know who, like why does his hair look like that? It looks like a 1970s band style hair, like where you would see it in the Beatles or something.
To me, he looked like a Justin Bieber wannabe, but then again, Justin Bieber didn't exist at that time. So.
And like Mark Hamill's eyes look like he's high on drugs or something. Why does he have his face like that?
That's the makeup. Yeah. Luke, you were going to say?
There is a reason for that. In January of 77, I believe it was, from what I've researched, and I think this is kind of known within the fandom anyway, but Mark Hamill got into a really serious car accident, which required some degree of reconstruction surgery on his face, and I'm guessing that it took time for his face to fully recover from the surgery, and the holiday special just so happened to be filmed during that time. So, as General said, Luke's face is covered in makeup for all of his scenes.
You know what's fucking wild? So, Mark Hamill, as a lot of us know, is a voice actor.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And he started voice acting in, I want to say 1973. At least that was his first voice acting role.
Really?
Yeah. And so he's a voice actor, and well, he's a great voice actor. Despite that, he's rarely voiced Luke Skywalker in things, thus making the holiday special one of the few times Luke Skywalker was voice acted by Mark Hamill.
You should actually hear Mark Hamill trying to sound like his younger self. Like, it's really hard to hear.
Like, the only other time I can think of when he voiced Luke was in one of the or a few Forces of Destiny shorts. But yeah, no, this is one of the few times he's actually voiced Luke Skywalker. So the holiday special is also notable for that.
Well, it was at his prime, I think. Like, and I kind of understand why he nor anyone tried to hire Mark Hamill as Luke himself, because like if you actually hear his voice currently is very different, and even with the Forces of Destiny, like
modern Mark Hamill or old Mark Hamill,
so
sounds nothing like you can just hear it in the Joker voice between the Arkham games and TAS. It's completely fucking different.
So Forces of Destiny has Mark Hamill voice younger Luke Skywalker. Let's just describe that. And he tries his best to sound like 1977 to 1983 Luke Skywalker, and he just doesn't sound like it. Like, it sounds god awful, and I have to be honest about it.
But I mean, surely you could have gotten him for like the Dark Forces games. Because like they got him to record for the Vector Prime commercial.
No. Even that, he sounds already old enough. Like, he doesn't even sound like...
Well, to be fair, that is several years later in universe, so...
But Yeah, but for that book, right, timeline wise, it didn't matter because it was like, I don't know, like 25 years after, you know, episode 4. So like, yeah, he could sound old. That's not an issue.
There's that. Speaking of,
For the modern,
what's that look?
I was just going to say very quickly, for the modern Star Wars productions, don't they either enhance Mark Hamill's voice with AI or completely remove the original spoken dialogue and just have AI synced over the top of it or in its place?
Yeah.
Don't want any AI, so fuck that.
Well, no,
Speaking of that, so for the Mandalorian season 2, that wasn't a voice actor or Mark Hamill trying to sound young. Like he actually appeared there, and then that was his voice modified a machine to sound like 1983 Mark Hamill.
Yeah, his Return of the Jedi appearance. Yeah,
No, I mean the voice also, not just the face.
yeah. I
That's
meant
what they
both.
did with Darth Vader in the Kenobi series.
Nah, I think that was completely AI because something didn't sound.
But yeah, the point being heavy use of AI to get the effect.
Yeah, indeed.
Anyway, so back to the holiday special. I mean, honestly, there isn't a lot to actually say about the whole thing, but I would like to touch upon the faithful Wookiee segment because there's, I think, actually like something to say with that
Semi-enjoyable.
one. Like, here's a cool tidbit. I mean, yeah, everybody knows first appearance of Boba Fett.
Not really. Nope.
Oh, really?
I gotta point that out because Boba Fett's first public appearance was actually at a parade. Not this thing.
Well, I think Henson was
I would
talking
say
about.
that hardly. Okay, so first appearance in an actual product.
Yeah.
Point being, here he is voiced by Don Franks, who would return to voice him a handful of years later in the Droids cartoon in that appearance with the same design and everything, which makes sense because it's the same animation studio, but still really cool detail there. And I actually really like Boba Fett's design here. And I wish they did more with it. We would have gotten it in 1313, but that never fucking happened.
Yeah, but the weird thing I don't really understand is like at this point, the Boba Fett we see in Empire Strikes Back, that whole design was already completed because, as I mentioned, the parade had Boba Fett appearing with all the armor, the green paintings, and all. So it makes me think, right? Is this blue armor actually what he wore during this events, or is this some kind of artistic representation?
I mean, it could have been the case that they had that they got the basic design because at this point the full white armor had already been made up. So I'm sure that the Nelvana, the animation studio, they got the design. Were told that, oh, we're gonna change the design so you could do whatever the fuck you want, and then they did their own thing, and then that's how we get the inconsistency.
Yeah, and I think episode 5 where Boba and Luke meets in the hallway in Bespin, I think that reaction is basically them remembering each other and it's like, hey, isn't that guy Boba? And it's like, oh shit, it's Luke.
I do find it interesting that like either nobody recognizes this guy as Boba Fett or Boba Fett is just like not a known guy.
Nah,
Like we have that like really like weird bit of dialogue where Darth Vader's like, "Oh yes, Boba Fett, the most well-known bounty hunter in the galaxy," or something like that.
and
It's like, why the fuck are you saying that?
And this is the reason some of the things don't make sense here, because Chewbacca and Han Solo, they are supposed to know Boba Fett, right? They work under freaking Jabba, right?
Yeah,
There is
and
no way these two do not know who he is.
make matters even worse. I mean, the main cast has witnessed Boba Fett before. Of course, there's Episode 4 with the special edition. Now that Boba Fett is there alongside Java when Han Solo talks to him, but there's also, of course, the Han Solo book trilogies. So, yeah, it's definitely one of those where you can tell that it makes no sense for Han, Chewie, and the others do not know about Fett because later sources pretty much are like, yeah, they've known him before even the events of Episode 4.
Which
So-
Han Solo book trilogy are you talking about? Because there are two of them.
I was
Uh,
mentioning both, but the one that interests him the most is the AC Crispy one.
Oh, okay.
And they
Sorry,
tried
go
to
on.
retcon it. They tried to retcon saying that Han Solo didn't recognize Boba Fett because, well, he was like having his head dizzy because of the disease. Then you need to ask yourself, why is Chewbacca gullible enough to trust Boba Fett?
Yeah.
Like, this whole plot doesn't make any sense from a modern perspective, that is.
It's one that you would need some sort of like a few retcons or something to explain it, because this plot is apparently canon. Like, this cinematic is canon, so you'd have to iron out a few inconsistencies there. Of course, the relationship between Boba Fett and the cast is definitely one of them.
And what is even more weird is, like, this thing actually plays when Lumpy is looking at his television set. So, like,
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it causes even more confusion. Why is there a cartoon of this in the world of Star Wars?
Yeah, about that, according to according to, well, it says here in Wikipedia that apparently it was Chewbacca who gave his son like a recording of some of sorts of that mission prior to the life day. Somehow, that was explained by the complete Star Wars encyclopedia. Like, that somehow the events that happen in the story of the Faithful Wookiee, the reason why Lumpy's watching this because Chewbacca recorded all of it and just gave it to his son. So, but also the Imperial records of that event were classified. So that's why it seems that Lumpy's the only one that has access to that shit.
No, it's not even a record. And you know why? Because if you look at the Wookiee segments, this is actually animated. It's not in live action. So, like, this isn't even a what if that recording was animated in an animated form. No, this thing is literally animated, even in the universe of Star Wars. It breaks all
Yeah.
sorts of logic that this thing even exists.
Yeah, how do you explain that one, Henson? Because yeah, it's canon, and it's also canon that Chewbacca gave it to his son in recording format, but yet it's in animated form. So how do you explain that one?
Well, you could explain it in the the story actually happened, but what we're seeing is merely the in-universe fictional retelling of the events.
Huh.
Now,
So
something like that makes complete sense, but in terms of having an explanation, that's really the only one I can think of.
so it's more like we're seeing what Lumpy's imagining?
No, the animated short we're seeing is an actual animated short in universe. It's merely based on real events.
And the show has like saying something like, well, this virus only affects humans. Boba, did you forget you're also human?
I literally thought about that when I rewatched it yesterday.
Or does his mask prevent him from getting, infected?
That's what I thought actually, because he has used his suit before to hold off his breath at times.
Well, I mean, can you really consider a clone a real human?
Yes. We're not going
Yes, in the literal sense, but like, they have no souls. The point being, Yeah, a lot of this short doesn't make much sense when you try to put it into the context of the wider universe. But it's honestly the only or unironically entertaining
Yeah.
segment in this whole fucking thing.
I do gotta ask, what happened to that talisman after the events of this short? Like, what did they do with it?
I don't know.
I
Because
will say this: the designs they give the characters. What the fuck?
Harrison Ford, Han Solo especially, he does not look like Han Solo at all.
I mean, it's like Boba Fett and Darth Vader. I mean, Darth Vader's not really animated, but they look fine. But then everyone else, like, what the fuck?
Is this to do?
Glad by the time we got to the droids cartoon, they were able to draw our humans in an appealing way.
And you know,
This is to do with
what?
Look,
this is to do with the animated segment.
yes.
When I saw, yeah, the humans look really weird in that, and Chewie. In fact, when I first saw Chewie in that segment, he reminded me of one of his, I want to say, Legacy Collection comic pack appearances. This is going into action figure territory because isn't there an old comic maybe from the original Marvel series where he's got, for some really weird reason, a yellow face even though his fur is still brown?
The Marvel comic was really inconsistent with Chewie. He never looked right. So I can't give the holiday special this, or I can't give the Faithful Wookiee segment this much credit. At least Chewie actually looks like Chewie and not some Bigfoot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but can we also discuss about like various meaningless things we see in the show, like random cooking instructions, machine assembly instructions, or random singers appearing, or cantina ladies singing? Like, why, man? Why?
We obviously know the real world reason why, but in universe wise, yeah. Okay, I think the biggest one that you're like, what the fuck, is definitely the cantina lady pretty much being like, yeah, let's all sing. This is the last night in the cantina. Like, how the hell would all the freaking people inside would be like, yeah, let's sing, instead of just fuck you, just give us alcohol and we'll just get out of here. Like,
And when the bartender says to get out, those people are not just going to get out in real world. They're gonna say, "Arr," and then the owner has to kick them out.
yeah, exactly. I mean, this hardly felt like the same cantina from A New Hope, even though ironically it is the same cantina as A New Hope. It's the night shift version. What the hell? Like, it's the same, but it's also not the same at the same time. It's so fucking weird.
And it's from one of those Golden Girls. I wonder whether you
B.
guys know.
Arthur.
Yeah,
Yeah, B.
you don't know
Arthur.
what the hell a Golden Girl is. Well, go ask your grandmother or something, nerds.
Yeah, she portrayed the lady. She's called Akamina. Would you believe if I told you that she actually reappears in the EU in Fate of the Jedi Allies?
Yes, I read
I mean,
it.
I'm not really surprised. They brought Sindel from the Ewok movies back in those later novels, so.
And she was brought back, but it was one of those, oh, remember this character exists? She doesn't even have a dialogue.
Makes you wonder why they wanted to do that. They wanted to just legitimize the elements of the holiday special even more.
I mean, you know how the EU works. If they can reference something from a quote unquote S canon source, they will.
The difference is most other S-canon sources are nowhere near as satirical as this.
Yeah, like the Marvel comics, the Ewok movies, and all
I mean,
that
you see
stuff.
something like this, it's like I would love to be in the position of a child in the 70s who watched that original movie, blown away because my stupid 70s mind couldn't comprehend the idea of what I was seeing on screen.
Yeah.
So excited to I want more Star Wars. So I start reading the Marvel comic, maybe even go back to read the novelization because more Star Wars.
Also,
And then it's
we
like,
Mind's Eye.
Star Wars is going to show up on my TV screen. Oh my God. And then you sit down, you're ready to just see more Star Wars. And then what do you see instead? You see a bunch of Wookiees screaming at each other, one old Wookiee masturbating to some VR woman. And then, of course, can't forget about drunk, dazed out of her mind, Carrie Fisher singing.
Don't forget all the Wookiees using those really weird red gowns during Life Day, which
I mean,
it looks so annoying.
wearing robes during a religious ceremony just makes sense.
No, I know it makes sense, but they just do not look good at all in those robes. They really don't. Like,
I mean, I'd say the thing that doesn't look good is when you see them walking in space and it's like, what the fuck?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And this is
Yeah, look, tell them your reaction to that. By the way,
What the walking into the celestial sun thing?
yeah.
That is literally the definition of what the fuck. It's the definition of what the fuck, A, in and of itself, but B, it then transitions to wherever they are afterwards, aka where the ceremony and the what was it, a day to celebrate song happens. And I do have a comment I would like to say about that in a second. And for me, that scene only makes the celestial sun thing even more baffling, because there I am and I'm thinking, what the fuck did they just do this transition scene in space for the sake of it, or are they trying to say that? Well, hang on a second, Doan, what are you laughing at?
No, I mean the whole thing is goddamn ludicrous. Like,
You know,
these goddamn furry creatures wearing these white clothes and then walking around, and then Leia starts singing and like.
Are they? Hang on. So
And to think, this is the one scene in the entire fucking production where all of the movie characters are on screen together.
I don't. To me, I just look at that scene, the walking in space to the celestial sun, and I'm thinking, what purpose is this supposed to serve? Is this supposed to be a transition? Is a day to celebrate sequence, as in like where it takes place, supposed to be where what that sun houses inside of it or whatever? Like what purpose?
Or are they
serve?
using the Force?
There's
Sorry?
that too. That it could be the Force.
Oh dear, didn't even think about that. The one thing I will say about the "A Day to Celebrate" song, my God, Carrie Fisher, may she rest, that lady could sing. So create.
No matter whether she can sing or not. Why is the Star Wars theme an actual thing in the universe?
I'm fully aware of that. I don't approve of it at all. It's just as someone who enjoys music, I can appreciate it on the level that, my word, Carrie Fisher could sing. From an in-universe standpoint, I don't get it whatsoever.
Well, hey, at least on the bright side, we now know in universe Leia can, in fact, sing.
Yeah, huge lore. Leia, Aldron knows how to sing.
Well, at least you can.
You know what would have made this whole thing just, I would say, infinitely more entertaining? Turn it into a musical.
Didn't we feel that it was a musical?
Let's have Darth Vader sing.
Right.
Jesus.
I know sort of someone who would absolutely be like, "Ah, my lord is singing."
You want to
The
hear
weird-
a musical about the character assembling a machine?
The weird thing with the musical pitch, Henson, is that we kind of get that vibe in a couple of scenes anyway, not just the A Day to Celebrate sequence, but remember that infamous Cantina song?
Ah, yes.
I kid you not. For the entire Cantina song sequence, I was thinking of Gaston's song from Beauty and the Beast, if that song was terrible. Like I said this to General, the Cantina the Cantina song in this special to me feels like a really poorly written Disney villain song.
don't let's also not forget that literally in the middle of the special, this special decided to give us the freaking Jefferson Starship Band as an
Ugh.
unidentified human band, and they were playing rock and roll.
As
And I also mentioned this fact, like this show has so little budget. You don't even see a single scene with a lightsaber nor a laser bolt.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
No
I-
action.
Yeah, Luke, we're gonna say something.
the Jefferson Starship thing rubs me the wrong way as someone who was, musically speaking, raised on classic rock and heavy metal. Yeah, no, hated that.
I mean, I think they played fine. It's just that why is this in Star Wars? I never, ever, ever imagined rock and roll being in Star Wars of all freaking IPs.
I mean, again, this just goes back to the format they were going with. Having this be a variety show, I think, was a mistake because this is just what you do in a variety show. It's a variety of different acts. So, if you know what you're getting into going into this, what you see is not really surprising, but giving this variety show a Star Wars coat of paint was definitely a mistake. Unless, if this show had a budget and we could actually like see things like, oh, here's this like alien band a la the Jizz Band from Mos Eisley. Like, we could have done some really cool world building with this special, but because we had no budget, we don't really get that. Now, there are some, I think, interesting tidbits here. I mean, again, we have, Boba Fett's proper introduction in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
But then we have that little moment that I think is really great that I wish we spent more time on. Like, we have the scene where Han and Chewie finally make it. And Han says, "Oh, you're like a family to me." And it's like, could we have gotten more of that, please? Like, that's a little bit of characterized. That's a really cool character tidbit, but then we get like nothing from that.
No.
Like, we could have done this really interesting thing of like, imagine if most of the focus here was on, like maybe an alternate way to do the holiday special is focus on Chewie's family, but also have Han there and show him, spending this holiday with them as though he is an actual member of this family.
Is it possible that the reason why Han is not there for too long, hell, even the special, is it because Harrison Ford did not want it to be there for too long?
I wouldn't want to be there.
I mean, I'm sure the reason why we mostly see the movie actors separate from each other in like very small portions is because of budget. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that
What
So
I
yeah,
noticed-
just like it is frustrating because like although the two Ewok films do have their problems, I think definitely in terms of pacing, but like you see, those I think did prove that you can do made-for-TV Star Wars productions and have them be watchable and feature mostly original characters. I think we either should have done that here. I mean, we kind of did, but like they're just different versions of Chewie, basically.
What was I trying to say?
Or
So
just give a splinter of the mind's eye.
this was
Actually, you know what? That wouldn't have worked because Hamill and Fisher were filming Empire, so that wouldn't have worked. But
by the way, this was the first appearance of Kashyyyk, right?
yeah.
yeah,
But like we don't see the planet exactly, if you know what I'm saying, because the whole time we're seeing inside, Chewbacca's family's house, and like, why did you introduce a new planet? Like, you just think about it, right? This is the native planet of the Wookiees. Like, we get to see what their culture is, like, how do they live, and then we're just only focusing on this single house. Like, is this all you can show? And even when we are in the house, like, it looks
it
like
just looks like a normal
Yeah,
human
1970s
house.
like, why, dude?
Based on the fact that this had very little budget, that's probably a contributing factor as to why, if not the sole reason.
I don't know. You could just hang some, hunted. Like, you could make an alien bone structure, so you could have this family hunts, or I don't know. They could have this giant ass bowcaster on the wall or something. Like, you could do something even with a low budget. Like, the interior is also terrible.
You know, you know, with 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 the house, I do have a couple of comments. First and foremost, I get this is a I get that this was a low budget production, but surely even with that, they could have produced a better miniature of the outside of the house than we got. Because Jesus, that miniature looks like it's made of cardboard.
I mean, that's a matte painting. That's not a miniature.
Really?
Yeah, that's a matte painting.
By the way, we won't get another
But-
live action Kashyyyk for 27 years, but that's that.
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing as well, with what you were saying, Henson, about the sequence where Han and Chewie finally get to Chewie's family. In my opinion, one of the better moments of this whole mess is actually the thing right before they greet the family, and it's when Han taps the stormtrooper on the shoulder, and I forget if it's just a tap on the shoulder or if he pushes him off, but he pushes him off. A bit of the railing breaks, and you get the Wilhelm scream as the stormtrooper falls into oblivion.
No,
Yeah.
the Stormtrooper himself actually fell off. Han didn't even touch him.
Oh, well, to me, that was actually one of the better moments of this mess.
Because, oh my
Even
god,
though-
something actually happened.
Yeah.
Like, if
Who
you could
actually
remove
seen?
so much of this movie and lose nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it is honestly, like, the fact that, this has the legacy that it does, and yet it still served as the foundation for quite a number of significant things. Like, Chewie's family shows up in future things.
Yeah,
That's
they
true.
appear in
Life
the
Day
EU a lot.
becomes like an actual holiday in universe.
Yeah.
Kashyyyk looks like this in like all future appearances.
No, it looks better than this. Whatever the hell.
Yeah.
The
It does.
point is they built off of this as the foundation. And Boba Fett, I mean, granted, he
And Mandalorian.
technically an episode 5 character, but still.
I do gotta wonder, since we're talking about elements of the holiday special appearing later in Star Wars, is the holiday special, is it S canon? Is it C canon? Like, which one is it? What's
I mean,
the canon issue with
based
this
on
thing?
what guys like Leland Shee has said, well, I mean, like, as far as I'm aware, pretty much anything pre-West End Games was instantly thrown in S canon. And if it was, and of course, as we know, if an S canon source is referenced by a C canon source, it automatically gets moved up. So, yeah, I would say it is a C canon source at this point.
No, it was deemed an S canon in 2008. So how it works is kind of complicated, but it's like elements of it could be completely canon, or what you see isn't. So like,
Yes. Yeah, see, that's the weird thing, because as prior to us starting this conversation, General went through this. What he went through doing a bit of research, seeing what material from this was later canonized in future sources, and he was saying to me, "Oh, it looks like the holiday special is C canon," but then I made the argument, well, hold on a minute. All C canon has really done is cherry pick some of the elements that this either features or introduces. Is the actual main story canon? So the whole Han and Chewie trying to get to Chewie's family, is that all canon? Because if that is, because bear in mind that's the main story of this thing, then it would be C canon. But if it's not, then where does it sit?
I mean, it's just this, like, since this thing is like a really bad story, because it is, right? So what happens is just people bring up references from this thing, which they find cool. So like that specific aspect becomes canon, but I don't think anyone actually wants this thing 100% to be canon,
I
including.
mean, do you have any source that says it's still strictly S canon?
Well, it was 2008, so I don't know.
What
Because, like,
article?
the way S canon worked is that if a C canon source referenced it, that entire thing was made C canon, not cherry picked. That's how we got so many Tales stories put into C canon. That's why pretty much everything pre West End Games was eventually put back into C canon. So, as far as I'm concerned, unless somebody has a source that definitively says the holiday special isn't C canon, I have no reason to believe it's not C canon. And no, it being bad doesn't mean anything in this regard.
But this is the thing, it's difficult to say. Everything that that has been canonized from everything that has been treated with legitimacy, so to speak, as in things from which debuted in this, which, for lack of a better word, for Star Wars has actually taken seriously and made part of the mythos. Again, it's cherry-picked elements from it. As far as I'm aware, there isn't a source there isn't a story within C canon where Han is like, "Hey Chewie, remember when we went through that hell to try and get to your family for Life Day?"
Apparently there is one, look, kinda. Star Wars Galaxy's MMORPG says that the blockade of Kashyyyk, where the Empire decided to blockade the planet and make sure that no ships can go in and out, and then Han and Chewie had to get in. Yeah, Galaxy's Rage of the Wookiees says that, yeah, that shit did happen. And essentially like the characters, the old one, not the new one. So, There is one source. Granted, it's an expansion from an MMORPG, but still.
The West End Games material is C canon.
Yeah, it is.
So,
And certain things. Oh, right. Like the Boba Fett cartoon, which doesn't make much sense anyway. Like,
yeah.
So, is there anything else that really needs to be said about this?
About the horror special, not really. Other than I see plenty of discussion online still debating if it's canon or not. But that's as far as I can tell.
So, I would say, as a part of my final thoughts here, although this is not a fun thing to watch, and I will not get drunk to watch this ever. So it's not fun to watch. And out of the early Star Wars productions, this is the worst of them. So it's not something I've watched it once, and I will watch it again, but be for a very specific reason. But I do think it should be released physically, officially, with a remastered footage from the whatever survives of the original material. Now, if there's something contractually and legally preventing that, well, then maybe when George Lucas finally dies, maybe then it could be officially released. But until then, gotta stick with the fucking bootleg quality and whatever people can do through unofficial means. So, I guess to close it or round it off, how the fuck does this exist? And the fact that it is still being talked about all these years later is honestly quite impressive.
Yep. It is impressive indeed. And yeah. Look, you next or Doan?
yeah, I'll go next. Yeah, the mere fact that some guy in a suit thought this was something a child would watch is already ridiculous enough. But I mean, if they didn't have the budget to make something interesting, they probably shouldn't have. What this thing now is, like, it's something of a relic, right? It's a 1970s relic where people try to, make profit out of what was considered the most popular thing at the time. So from that perspective, this thing should be put in a museum, right? But like, I do not see any reason why someone would see this other than some morbid curiosity. So like, yeah, if you're curious, you could see it, but personally, there are many ways to get entertained than watching this. This isn't even entertainment in my eyes. It's like a high-tech torture device, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, indeed. But by the way, I actually found the article that says that Leland Cheese says that he did put the horror specials as canon. So just for those curious.
Do you mind sending it to us?
Yeah, I already sent it right there in the on Discord.
And also, if I may ask, when exactly is it dated?
2008, the same year that the one said it released. So there is that. Yeah. According to Chi, that according to Cheetah, yeah, that holiday special itself is as canon, but that any element from the special that is referenced in another work is considered C canon, but any element from the holiday special that is not referenced in other works is considered S canon. So my guess is those acrobatic, crazy people that were in the holographic table that were doing that performance for Lumpy, I guess those are not canon because they're not referenced at all. but I
Well, you
mean,
said the general story was referenced in a source book.
yeah, the blockade of Kashyyyk was referenced by the MMORPG, an expansion pack.
I mean, if you want to see how canon this is, then I mean, I'm not gonna do it, but you guys can go search Wikipedia, look for every single reference in this thing to see if it's referenced in a
Already did that.
source.
Already did that. Plenty of them are referenced in other sources.
So basically, this entire thing is canon.
A good portion of it is, yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna say like 90% of it is that it's basically the entire fucking thing. The whole S canon thing is worthless.
maybe.
Yep. Then I guess it is in the C canon territory then.
Thanks for nothing, Leland Shee.
Well, there's that. Yeah. Anyway, so look, I guess now your final thoughts.
Having finally seen this, given the legacy that it's carved out for itself, I mean, I guess it was worth seeing from purely from a morbid curiosity standpoint, as Doan said. But in terms of there is a reason why the fandom don't acknowledge it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. As for me, well, this thing is definitely very fascinating and weird, and a few times cringe-inducing to watch. But hey, at least it's something interesting to watch. Yeah, it's boring several times, especially when it decides to drag a lot with doing the specific activity. Like, for example, the Harvey Korman with the freaking robot character trying to build that shit or some other stuff. Yeah, definitely boring. Not that interesting, but you know what? As a piece of the past that is barely even released, if anything at all, it's something. So I can't really be too angry at it or disappointed, or it's just something that exists. And yeah, I don't have much to say other than that was interesting, to say the least. So yep, and that's pretty much it for this live stream discussion of the 1978 holiday special. And yep, we'll see you guys on the next State of Star Wars video. Bye bye.
Bye.
See ya.